Hello and welcome back to the CQC video tutorial series. In this video, we're going to look at scheduled events. I would recommend at this point that you go back if you haven't already and watch the triggered events video, which is the one just before this, because it covers some information that's common to both of them, and I won't duplicate that information here. So what we're going to do is just jump right into it and bring up the scheduled event or the event server configuration dialog. And one of the tabs on that dialog is to manage your events, your scheduled events or your triggered events. In this case, we created this triggered event earlier in the previous video. And now we're going to create a scheduled event here. And you do that by pressing Add New. And what this brings up is an initial dialog that lets you set the schedule information for the event. So CQC will watch the current time and date, and anytime it becomes time to run one of the events based on how you've scheduled it, it will invoke that event. And there are a number of different schemes, and they're in this little event type drop down here. There's the one shot, which means it runs once and then it becomes disabled after that. And there is the on a daily basis, weekly basis, or monthly basis. And these are ones where you can run at a particular hour of the day, a particular day of the week, or a particular weeks or days out of the month. And there are some periodic ones which run every so many minutes, hours, or seconds. And then there are sunrise and sunset based ones. We'll just quickly run through these. We won't create one of each of these, but we'll to show you how the configuration is done. For the one shot, there is no configuration. It basically it runs at the time that you set here. So you pick a day and you pick some time here, and that becomes the run time. And once it's run, it doesn't run again. For the daily basis, this becomes the start time over here, and this becomes the particular time of day. So once you go beyond the start time, it will begin running at a particular time of day. For the weekly basis, then this again becomes the start time over here. So once you go beyond the start time, it will begin to run it at a particular time of day on these particular days of the week. So you can just, if you hold down the control, you can selectively click on and off particular days. For the monthly basis, again, once it gets past the start time that's set in this area over here, then it will, on a particular day of the month at a particular time, it will run the event on the selected months. So the third day of the month at 2 a.m. and then on April and June, that kind of thing. For the X minutes, and these are all basically the same, so I'll only do one of them. It's you just set the number every X minutes. So once it hits the start time, after that, every so many minutes or so many hours or so many seconds or days, it will run the event. And those are all just set the number of hours, minutes, or days in the interval. For the sunrise and sunset, it will be based on your local sunrise and sunset relative to the latitude and longitude that you set when you install CQC. But you can also set an offset in minutes up to an hour before or after sunrise or sunset, either one. So once you've selected something, we'll say we'll do one at sunset that's maybe 10 minutes before sunset. Say we could turn on some lights. So we'll say lights on at sunset. And you can edit the action, and there again, always as usual, the same old. It's you configure the action just as you would any other. And we could do this to field right and select a field. We don't really have in the simulator here any sort of like outdoor light that would be appropriate for this type of thing. I'm not going to actually configure it, but you get the point. You would just configure it to do whatever you want to do at that point. As with the triggered events, you can selectively log invocations so that you can, if you're having problems with one, you can see when it's running and whether it worked or didn't work if it fails. Otherwise, it won't log anything just to avoid using up log space. And that's basically it. Just configure the actions that you need, and they will run when you have asked them to run. As with triggered events as well, I don't have any in the list here, so these options are grayed out. You can pause or resume it and you can change one that you've already created and adjust the action or the schedule. Also, for scheduled events, you can just do a test just to make sure it runs. Unlike the triggered event, which depends upon incoming field information to work, and therefore it's kind of hard to test it because the easiest way to test it is just change the field and make it happen, because it needs to often look at the value of the field that changed and do something based on that. So it's hard to just test it blindly without that information being provided. But for these, you can just test it by just pressing the test button because they don't need any incoming information. And that's it. That's how scheduled events work. And we'll see you in the next video.